Yes, two of the competition's true entertainers and success stories as well. The Broncos and Warriors going from one end to the ladder to the other in the space of a season. Quite remarkable to finish with a second chance in September. And while the Warriors need it, the Broncos did not. And here they are, preliminary final footy at its best Saturday night, live and free on 9 from 7 p.m. Gus, the Broncos, they're rested, they're fully fit, they're ready and raring to go. They've got the cauldron that is Suncorp Stadium. Can they be beaten?
Yeah, you can imagine Saturday night when after they'd sat there and watched the Warriors and watched all the emotion and the crowd and everything happening there would have been a very different atmosphere up in Brisbane as they went about their business. And now they knew who their opposition was. They'd be planning right from that moment. The Warriors have got a big task. They've got two big obstacles. One is to come down from all that emotion last week and put that behind them. The second thing is they're playing what I think is the second best team in the competition, who are in really good form at the moment, on their home ground in front of a crowd that's going to be supporting them. We've seen what it's done at Origin time. It's time for it to work for the Broncos. It's time for that Queensland spirit to kick in. And I think the fact that Adam Reynolds is back and looking fit and well, he is the one that manages this team around the paddock. He's got these brilliant young athletes. It's really tough, mobile forward pack in front of him. He's the governor. He's the one that decides how quick they go. Without him, they just flat out, their foot to the floor the whole time. He's the one that's got a little bit of light and shade in his game, which could be the difference between the two teams. Big test for the Warriors, massive test for the Warriors, and Broncos, it's theirs to lose.
Go in all those play-ons and playoffs, we saw all the backs being highlighted, but what I'm looking forward to is Payne Haas and Fenua Blake. Who's the better player and who's going to be the person who's going to lead their team to win?
It's a bit harsh to be saying who the better players. They're both fantastic. Well, because they're different players.
Who would you sign on the open market?
Who am I signing? Well, whoever's the most value, whoever's taking the least amount of money, whoever can sign the cheapest. Look, they're both brilliant players. Okay, I'm going to say Payne Haas. Payne Haas has been more consistent for a longer period of time. Phil Blake has always shown a glimpse of how good he can be and how good he could be, but he's never been consistent until this season. He's been fantastic this season. He's probably been their best player. I said on the weekend on radio before the game, whoever wins a battle in the middle of the field between him and Saifidi, will go a long way to win the match. He towed him up, absolutely hammered their whole pack on his own almost. But let me tell you, when he came off the field at the 20-minute mark, there was a noticeable change in what happened to the Warriors team. Him and Barnett come off the field, and it was different. The Newcastle Knights started to get on top, and they did for the back end of that game. Now, Fenua Blake, admittedly, probably didn't need to come back on. He only played the last probably not even 15 minutes of the match because they probably had it sewn up. So they saved him, kept him on ice a little bit. But he's been brilliant this whole season, and what a battle it's going to be between them two. I can't wait to watch it. So I'll wait and see who wins. But as I said, mate, whoever wins the battle in the middle of the field goes so much to win the match. I mean, it's the only way the backs get space. It's the forwards in the battle in the middle of the field, the backs get space. If they don't get space. That's what Callum Ponga was hammered on the weekend. Hammered because they could not go forward. They could not create any space for Callum Ponga. They just hammered him all day.
Gus, you mentioned before, alluding to Brisbane being the second best team in your eyes in the competition. The Knights had their grand final in front of a big home crowd. The Warriors had their grand final in front of a big home crowd. Is this the grand final for the Broncos as good as it's going to get this year?
Well, it's going to be a special memory for them if they can do it. They haven't been to the grand final for some time. Look, it's a club that's steeped in history and steeped in success, and they've got people around the club that have been a part of that for a long period of time. Adam Reynolds has experienced it himself. They're a tremendous young team. You know, probably 6 or 8 weeks ago, I said here on this show, I just didn't know if they were mature enough and had the defence to win a premiership. Since that time, I've watched them very, very closely, and each week there's been an incremental improvement. Now, a couple of weeks ago against the Melbourne Storm, their defence was outstanding. Their whole attitude, their physicality looked leaps and bounds better than what it was a couple of months ago. So they're certainly getting themselves ready for it. You know, let's not play the grand final a week too early. They've got to get over the Warriors this week, and they won't want to take them lightly. We'll talk about their chances in the grand final against the Panthers the following week, but you know, they've got to concentrate on this one, not take the Warriors lightly, not be thinking too much about what's happening down the track, and execute as they have done for most half of the season, the back half of the season this year. They're a very, very good side.
Gus, the role of Kevin Walters, I mean, there were a lot of doubts when he came into that job, and he was pushed into it by the old boys. How much credit does he deserve for what they're doing right now?
I think he's re-established what it means to be a Bronco. I think the Broncos lost their way for a number of years there. And whether it was the changeover in head coaches, Bennett came, Bennett went back, Bennett left again. You know, I think that Kevy, who has been with the Broncos for a long, long time, and the people that he has in and around the organisation, re-established what it meant to be a Bronco. And with that comes a confidence, an arrogance about being the number one team in the competition, and that's what they believe they are. And he exudes that confidence. He always has as a player, and he's got that through as a coach. And if the play is a reflection of the coach, the way they are, they're fast, they're skillful, they're creative, they're innovative, they don't fear making mistakes, and that's the way Kevy played his whole career. And they play with that confidence that they're a Bronco, and that's what they should be doing. Broncos should be playing in grand finals. That's it. He's instilled that with them, and last year they fell short. They led the competition for a long time. They were in the top 4 for a long time. They fell over at the back end of the year. They've gone away, resurrected that, come back, signed Reece Walsh, which was a big bonus for them, and now they're second none chance of winning a premiership. But I think they'll be too good for the Warriors.
I think they will be too. Walsh was a big bonus, but I think the whole club deserves credit, and whether it's Kevy or the whole club in general for keeping that group of players together. You've got to remember, it's only 3 or 4 years ago they win wooden spoons. They'll come last, which is unknown to the Broncos. They never come last. They kept this group of players together, the main part of the group of players together, and now look where they are. Second in the competition, in my opinion, will probably play in a grand final.